All right, guys, welcome back to another case study. I'm looking forward to breaking down this trade for you guys on Euro USD. There's a lot of valuable insight here. So before I dive in, let's just head over to the Discord channel. The price action I'm going to be going over today is this trade that I made a post about in the chat room the other day. I mentioned, unfortunately, literally stepped away from my desk to make breakfast and I missed this trade. Super unfortunate, but I want to do a case study on it anyways because of the lessons that are within this price action. So let's dive right into it. All right, so again, I'm on Euro USD. I'm currently on the 1 minute time frame. Of course, higher time frame demand zones were involved in, I'm not going to go all the way to the left right now, but we've reacted to a higher time frame demand zone, and that's why I was anticipating price to start turning bullish from there. Of course, we wait for confirmation. We want to see price action develop in our favor before taking a certain position, in this case, a long position, right? So as you know from the educational content within the community, the first step we look for is the initial break of structure, right? So that's obviously right here. We were having consistent bearish momentum. And then, of course, we see the first initial break of structure, right? We had lows, 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 and then that structure was broken. And it was broken with pretty good momentum too. So of course I label the break of structure. Now, as you all know, the next step is locating the demand zone that was responsible for that break of structure. In this case, it is that small bearish candle right there, okay? That's the last low momentum candle that was responsible for this impulsive movement to the upside. So that is the point of origin. So I'm just going to drag that out, and we can go ahead and place a position here. Right, so let me go back to the Discord. What were the parameters here? Entry was, the entry was 12894. 12894, yep. And stop loss was 12864. 12864, yeah. So I had a 3 pip stop loss and it was a 5R trade, right? So where are we here? 13, 8. Yeah, it was not a 5R trade, it was about an 8R trade. What was the reasoning for that? I can't even recall. Right, so I was just targeting, the most recent supply. Of course, we have a more probable supply zone on the higher time frame, which is the 1 hour supply zone way up here. But in the short term, I was just looking for price to react to the nearest supply zone. Anyways, that's irrelevant because the take profit is not as important, because one of the lessons I'd like to go over within this case study is stop loss management. If you don't want to have a set take profit and you want to trail your stop loss, it can be a very, very powerful strategy. So I'd like to go over that today because this is a perfect example of that. So before I get too far ahead of myself, let's play price forward and see what happens here and see when and how this trade would have been triggered in. Okay, so as we can see, the position is not triggered in yet, but one thing I'd like to outline here is we have resting liquidity here in the form of equal lows. So that basically adds confluence to this demand zone, right? Because we know that equal lows are not usually respected as a double bottom, which most people look for, or most retail buyers look for. We know that it's likely that this liquidity is going to be purged, which adds validity to the fact that price is going to come down towards our demand zone of interest, right? So that's where our entry would be set. Our buy limit order would be here, stop loss here, take profit wherever. So let's continue. We trade a bit higher. Okay, so then the liquidity is purged. As you can see, price trades lower, clears all the liquidity resting there from those relative equal lows. And as you can see, we would be tapped into this position now. Okay, and it takes off pretty significantly. Yeah, it was about here that I sent that picture. Where are we here? Okay, I've got too many windows open. Yeah, so it took off pretty quickly as I showed in the Discord, right? I was super bummed that I missed this trade. That was pretty unfortunate, but it's all good. There's always more to come. So, heading back over to Trading View. There we go. Okay, so obviously after the initial break of structure, we have another major break of structure right here. So let's outline that as well. All right, so it's pretty straightforward so far. Now at this point, it's in such significant profit that, depending on your personal preference, like it's almost 5R right there. Depending on your personal preference, you can move your stop loss to break even to remove all the risk off the table. In terms of stop loss management, like trailing your stop loss, there's not a clear spot to trail it to just yet. So let's keep playing it forward. Okay, so now it gets interesting. This is where we can really start to discuss management techniques, right? Because where's my brush tool? So within this section of price action here, it's all pretty condensed. It's very close together. It's very difficult to tell where the solidified highs and solidified lows are. I mean, technically you can, right? Like this is a high, this is a low, this is another high, this is another low, etc., etc. But it's very clustered together. That makes it kind of difficult for stop loss placement, especially because we're on the 1 minute time frame. I don't go any lower than that, so we can't really break this up any further. But as soon as we get to here and create this solidified high, then we create this solidified low, and then we actually form another break of structure. So this, to me right here, is a very clear break of structure. Let's label that again. And after seeing that, it would be very wise to move the stop loss just under that solidified low, because technically this line here would be the invalidation point, right? Or well, technically this wick here would be the invalidation point. If price were to surpass that, we would no longer be looking for buying opportunities. We would no longer be wanting to hold a long position, of course, because the structure of the market would be changing, right? This is the recent low. So if we saw a break, then we'd be looking for a retest of the supply zone responsible and then a short move from there, right? So that's the whole basis behind moving your stop loss. You don't want to just move it to anywhere that you feel comfortable or some sort of profit region where you feel comfortable. There should be logic behind it. You should be able to decipher why you're doing that. There should be a reason for it, okay? So in this case, there's a clear reason to move our stop loss here because it's just below this solidified low, and if price were to take out that low, we would no longer want to be in a long position. So if that were to happen, the trade would get taken out for just over 3.3R, not too bad. Of course, there's so much potential with this though. So keep in mind, in this example, I'm going over, let's just pretend there's no take profit, okay? So the target can be, let's just throw it way up here. It doesn't matter because I'd like to go through management techniques, right? In the image here, I was only targeting this supply zone. It was just over 8R. I did have a take profit that I wanted there, but as I saw price action develop, I figured this would be a really good lesson on how to manage a trade with an open profit target, basically. That's how you see people sometimes get 20 to 30R profits from a trade, because instead of having a set take profit, they just trail it and trail it and trail it, and eventually they get stopped out when the trend reverses. But there's huge potential with it. So before I ramble too much, let's continue to play price forward and see what happens next. So we do have some more clear breaks of structure. One here, another one here. So technically, after this one, we can move the stop loss below this low, And then after this one, you could again move the stop loss just below this low here, right? Just to clarify, these are the low points, right? So we would just gradually move the stop loss up because this is representing very healthy bullish order flow. So we would still want to be in the position. Let's continue. Okay, so as you can see, it shot up pretty significantly there. You know what, for the sake of this video, let's extend the target all the way to the 1 hour supply zone. Just as an overall, like, best case scenario target. And let's see how far we can trail this position before getting stopped out in profit. So again, just following price action, following the mitigations, following market structure. You know what, I'll create a new one there, it's too big. Yeah, just following the market structure here. We have another break of structure, so let's label it, which of course means there is another solidified low. So let's move the stop loss there. So again, if price were to reverse at any point in time and our stop loss would be hit, what would we be left with at this point? We'd be left with almost 8R, okay? It's pretty significant, but let's see how this plays out. Let's just extend this over. Okay, really dragging out here, but that's okay. It still hasn't hit the stop loss. Technically this could be considered a break of structure, but it's a very weak break of structure. Like as you can see, it didn't have like real full body closure above that high. It just barely pierced through and then created wicks and then really started consolidating in a range afterwards. So at this point you could technically move your stop loss to this low right here, but I wouldn't do that just yet because this is a very clear demand zone that has been untested, right? So we want to leave that there just to see what's going to happen. So if we moved our stop loss to just below this low, we'd be kind of sabotaging ourselves because based on our entry system, we know that there's a good chance that price will test this demand zone and then take off again from there, right? So we don't want to move the stop loss just yet. Let's continue. Okay, so there we do have a clear break of structure. And at this point, it's pretty far away from this demand zone, so I am going to delete it. And we could move the stop loss comfortably below this low, right? Because the structure point was broken here. This was the leg that was responsible for that. So this is a solidified low. This is where we would have the stop loss. So as you can see, without setting a proper take profit level, you're really able to ride out these moves for as long as possible. Okay, not looking too good. But again, it's a risk-free position, so let's just keep dragging it out. Time doesn't matter in this case. Let's just see what happens. Basically just a consolidation. Keep in mind, this is the structure that we'd want to see broken before moving the stop loss any further. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's go to the 5-minute time frame so this moves faster. Okay, there we go. Back to the 1 minute. Let's see. Okay, it's getting pretty clustered. Yeah, technically these are the most recent lows right here, but again, it's very clustered, so I'm not sure if I'd want to move the stop loss anywhere there. Also, all of these lows here are pretty relatively equal, so there would be liquidity resting underneath there. So you know what, I think the stop loss is good for now. Let's see if we have more defined structure. Okay, that's what I like to see. So let's move the stop loss all the way over here. Mind you, I'm not being too careful with the exact placement of the stop loss. Like, I'm not looking at the price on the side here. I'm just roughly putting it below the recent lows. Obvious break of structure here. As you can see, we're getting pretty close to the overall target here, the 1 hour supply zone. Let's see if that gets hit. Okay. Give me just a second here. Let me just adjust this. Yeah, so our stop loss was right here, and we would have been taken out right here. So what does that give us? That leaves us overall with just over 44 pips, just under 15R. So that's fantastic. So that truly shows the power of how to just, manage the stop loss as price progresses and just ride out the full momentum of the move. Okay, so this was a very strong bullish move. I believe it eventually hits that 1 hour supply zone, because that was a supply zone that I was focused on today for other trades. Yeah, it does. Right there. So technically, yeah, if you didn't trail your stop loss that close, you could have made it to 20R, just under 21R. But that's completely fine, because as you're trailing the stop loss, you could take partial profits as well, or leave the full position there. And it's just a very stress-free way to trade, because you know that if the market is to reverse at any point in time, you're still left with significant profit. So it's a very healthy way to go about trading. It's easy on the mind, on the psychology. So yeah, our stop loss would have been here. We would have been taken out right here, of course. But yeah, overall, this was a wonderful trading opportunity. I'm not sure if any of you guys got in on it. I hope you did. Really kicked my own butt about this one, because I literally stepped away for like 10 minutes to make me and my kid breakfast and just missed this trade. It was it was heartbreaking, but it's okay. What makes me more happy is that I get to see the power of the strategy, because it just amazes me every single time. Like, whenever there's an opportunity like this, it blows my mind how powerful this trading strategy is. When most people are going for 1 to 3 risk reward ratios, we're talking about 15R potential. And beyond that, 20, 30R. These moves can last for so long. And as I just mentioned, if you were like a little less picky than me about the stop loss management, you could have rode this thing all the way to the higher time frame supply zone for just under 21R, which is absurd, right? If you think about it, on a 100K funded account, that's $20,000. You could take the rest of the month off and still be making more money than most people. So the potential is absurd. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it wasn't a live trade that I took, but I still felt the need to go over it anyways, because of the value that can be found within this entire move. I think it's a very valuable lesson to go over in terms of stop loss management, as well as the entry system to begin with, right? Like, the reason we entered this trade, we literally picked the absolute bottom of this move, and it's just beautiful. We're triggered to enter a trade just based on this first initial break of structure, which is the first sign that the trend is changing, right? We reacted to a higher time frame demand zone to the left, and of course, after that first break of structure, we locate the demand zone or order block, whatever you want to call it, that was responsible, right? The point of origin. That beautifully gets mitigated after purging liquidity, which is something we should always look for, even more so than locating imbalance. locating liquidity is much more important because it adds the validity to our demand zone. Okay, so as soon as that was mitigated, you can see how impulsively price took off. Now, you can't tell me that this is sporadic or a coincidence of some sort. This is very calculated. If you see how accurately these two areas are correlated, it's just phenomenal. So for anyone to say it's just like luck or gambling or there's no pattern to it, anybody who's familiar with smart money concepts in trading should laugh at anybody who says that, because it's ridiculous. They just need to be educated a little bit more, because you see the accuracy of this. Very, very little drawdown, maybe a pip of drawdown, maybe 1 pip, not even, and then it just took off to 15R without breaking structure to 15R. To me, that is pretty phenomenal. So I hope you guys gained some value from this video, and I'll talk to you all soon.